My mic fell out of my pocket. I have snow pants and snow boots on because after the concert last night, I came here and shoveled 3-4 inches maybe. This morning I shoveled maybe 2-3 more inches. And then when I was in my office doing what I do, I saw Dwayne shoveling. Thank you, Dwayne. And then I saw Steven shoveling. So yeah, lots of shoveling. That being said, wow, if you didn't know, if you've never heard that before, unless you're one of Peter's kids, he wrote that. And yeah, right? And I hope and pray that his kids far and wide can tune in and check that out and see that and worship with that, because that is just very special. Will you join us in our prayer of illumination? Living God, Christ mystery, Spirit of love, we thank you for these sacred moments together. As we gather on site or online, your love walks among us, uniting what cannot be divided. May we reflect your light and expand the sacred space of right here into the sacred place of everywhere. There is a verse in Isaiah that feels like gospel that Tom shared. The ransomed of the Lord shall return with singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their heads. Sorrow and sighing shall flee away. And Mary sings right alongside. My soul magnifies the Lord, for God has looked with favor on the lowliness of this servant. 2 voices, centuries apart. 1 joy. Joy is not a mood. Joy is transformation. Joy is what happens when love finds the space to grow. Today we're going to explore that one word, space. Sacred spaces. Sacred people. Sacred love. If you didn't know, this is a picture of the first snowfall at Camp Westminster, where our youth group has been going for more than a decade. We don't know who took it, but Bruce found it, and we love it. This is a sacred space. It goes to, I believe, the labyrinth that our youth built there on, is it Wiggins Lake or Riggins Lake? Higgins. I had it wrong. Higgins Lake. Yes, it is a beautiful lake. One of the clearest in all of Michigan, I understand. Go Blue. Sorry, did I say that? Because Advent insists that God comes into spaces, physical spaces, emotional spaces, communal spaces, and transforms them from the inside out. Sacred space begins small. We begin with Mary, not at a manger, but at conception. Her womb becomes a sanctuary for the gestation of justice and joy. a holy place the size of a clenched fist, a whole revolution starting in the body, deemed lowly. Advent reminds us that everything big that God does begins hidden and held. Sacred space is feminine. I am not necessarily saying in gender, which I'm okay with. God, birthing, creation is beautiful. But I am saying feminine in capacity. It is the creative, nurturing, gestating part of God that says, make room. Let something sacred grow. Rohr calls this the divine feminine. Not a comment on autonomy, on anatomy, but on the energy, the creativity, the fostering, the tenderness. And it raises a rather tender question. What about the sacredness of real human bodies? Especially ones that history has harmed, silenced, and exploited. Maybe Advent invites us to honor the feminine, not as an idea, but as a wound that we must help heal. Sacred space is everywhere, literally. Everything visible, Rohr writes, is the outpouring of God. Everything is Christified, he says. I prefer Christ-lit. Sounds a little bit cooler with the kids these days. Everything is Christified, infused with God's presence. Your living room, your workplace, your backyard, your church pew, Zelienople, all of it, potential sanctuary. Sacred space is also the space within us. Advent asks, is the inner room of my life nurturing joy or draining it? Is it hospitable to hope? Hospitable to others? Hospitable to me? You can't birth anything holy if the room inside of you has no grace, is empty of love, is devoid of joy. Sacred spaces require boundaries. Mary said yes, but not to everything. She said yes to God, but not to Herod. Yes to birthing, not to bearing everyone's demands. Some of us give in until we disappear. Some of us have been taught that our worth is in our usefulness, in our successfulness. But sacred space needs walls. Soft ones, yes, but real ones. Because joy cannot grow where we are chronically depleted. Sacred space is where the personal and the universal meet. Rohr says we need both. Jesus, the personal God who cries with us, Christ, the universal presence that holds all things together. Some days we need a God who is infinite. Some days we need a God who will sit in a corner with us and weep. Sacred space holds them both. Sacred space is a healing space. Isaiah paints a world renewed. Deserts bloom. Weak knees, oh yes, are strengthened. And a fearful heart, oh yes, is steadied. This is not escape. It's transformation. When dry blooms, or what's dry blooms, what's wounded heals, what's desolate becomes holy, sacred ground. That promise is not just cosmic, it's deeply personal. Our desolate places, our desolate spaces, we all have them, are not the end of the story. Sacred spaces turns ordinary places into miraculous spaces. Birth happens nearly 750,000 times a day. Birth happens nearly 750,000 times a day. And yet, it remains miraculous. Like breathing. Like forgiveness. Like the slow rebuilding of a heart. Like the moment you notice you're still here after everything. Advent teaches us to honor the everyday miracles that we walk on past every day. Sacred space invites relationship, authentic relationship with creation, with all creation. What if we saw the world not as a resource or an obstacle or even a backdrop, but rather as a companion, as a friend, as a loved one? What if the river, the tree, the sky, the soil longed for relationships just as we do? We all know and have read about how if you talk to a plant nicely, it will grow. If you talk to a plant mean, it won't grow nearly as much. They'll even die. What if the healing of the earth and the healing of us are the same story? Creation as the first Bible, creation as the first incarnation, creation as our partner in joy. Sacred space calls us to say our own yes. Mary's Magnificat is not a lullaby. It is a power ballad. She sings with a belly full of possibility, and her yes echoes across history. Advent asks us, where are you being invited to grow? Where are you being invited to grow gently, patiently? Where needs nurturing? Where must we say yes? Where must we say no? Where is God growing joy in you that you haven't even named yet? Friends, perhaps the decorations on our trees can remind us that the whole universe shines from within. Everything is Christ-lit. Everywhere is sacred space, waiting, yearning, longing to become joyful with you. So maybe this week our eyes can be anointed to see it. Maybe our hearts can be spacious enough to embrace it. And maybe you, sacred person, can make room for joy. The joy that is coming to life in you and you and you. Amen? Amen.